Welcome in, Seahawks fans, to another episode of the Hawks Eye podcast. And today we have a special guest joining us. We have Arye Pulli, NFL credentialed reporter, joining us today on the show to talk about the draft, talk about some of the prospects that he's kind of taken a liking to throughout this process and where he sees the value in this draft. Is it a top-heavy draft? Is it a draft where you're going to get more of your value in day 2 or day 3? We're going to ask Arye all those types of questions, and Arye's been nice enough. He's going to do a mock draft with us before he hops off tonight's show. So if you guys haven't already, head on over, like, subscribe, click that notification button, head on over to the Discord chat, which you guys can find up in that QR code up there. Make sure you guys click on that, join the Discord and the Hawks Eye community over there. But with all of that taken out of the way now, we're going to have Arye on right after this.
That's all we do, baby. It's our time. This relentless Seattle defense continues to have a night. Their sixth sack.
First and 10 at the Seattle 44. Here comes the blitz. May. Hennessy tries to throw. Ball comes out. Going the other way. Turning up the field. It's Shannon Oakley. And he scores. Touchdown. Play faking him. Sanders going to roll left. Looking. Sam throws. Back in the end zone. Is it caught? He's out it in. Touchdown. Seahawks.
We did not care. About us. It's always been about us and what we do. And now we're going to the Super Bowl.
And with that being said, we got Arye Pulli in the house. Arye, this is your first time on the Hawks Eye, but how are you doing, man?
I'm doing great. Thanks for having me, Bryce.
I'm really looking forward to this conversation, Arye, and getting your perspective. So let's kind of talk about this draft class. You know, for you, how do you view this class compared to, say, the last 5 years? Like, is this a true down year? The hive mind of the NFL draft, conglomerate here is kind of saying that. It's been said throughout the offseason. Do you view it the same way?
I don't. I think there are a lot of players in this draft class that can make instant contributions. And there are also a lot of players that, like, we look at the top of the draft board, Arvell Reese. He might not be an instant double-digit sack guy, but, give him a year, give him 2 years, and he's going to be a contributor. I think this draft class is really deep as well. There are several positions. Wide receiver comes to mind as one. That's like, wow, there's so many guys that I would love to have on my team. So I think it's really deep. You look at, obviously, the quarterback position. That's what everybody looks at. There is the 1A guy, Fernando Mendoza. That's about it. There are a couple of guys like Garrett Nussmeier, Drew Aller that I like. I've heard a little bit about Taylon Green over the past couple of weeks. But, yeah, I would say everything other than quarterback, I'm thoroughly impressed with.
So it's going to be interesting, and this is the other thing I wanted to ask you about with this, is the NIL effect on the NFL draft. Obviously, the NFL draft before, you look at what Seattle did with Richard Sherman and Cam Chancellor and a lot of late to mid-round guys they were able to get that now in this world of the NFL probably might stay an extra year in college because they're going to make similar amount of money that they would as a late-round pick. How do you see the NIL really affecting the draft, and has it really affected the draft, the last couple of years since it's been in place?
Yeah, I think I've seen definitely throughout the past couple of years more players to make an impact now. Players are playing more. Players are getting paid more. They're getting an incentive to stay in school. And I think there's a lot of guys with a lot more experience that they would not have had in previous draft classes. And I think we're seeing that on the field. I mean, think of Bo Nix comes to mind. He's a guy that might have come out 2 years prior if NIL didn't exist, and he's having a great career with the Broncos. I think guys are more league ready due to the NIL.
Yeah, and I think that's one thing John Schneider kind of mentioned, that whole thing, the money aspect of it. How do these guys handle money? How does that now play into these evaluations? Like, is the guy going to be chasing money and transferring constantly, or is he, hey, you know what? I'll take what my school that I've been committed to is going to give me, and I'm going to stay there. And I think, you look at a guy like Gray Zabel last year for Seattle, gave up money to clearly go to Power 5 or Power 4 conference schools to stay at NDSU, and it served him well. 18th overall pick, was one of the best linemen this year as a rookie in the NFL. It'll be interesting. But when you look at this class, does it look more like a class that suits teams that are able to reload, like the Seattle Seahawks, that, hey, we need to add a couple pieces here or there and add some depth? Or do you think for some teams they could actually rebuild in this type of a class?
Yeah, I mean, when I think of rebuild, it always comes back to the quarterback position. And like I mentioned, it's not as strong as it previously would be. I would lean more towards the reload. I mean, when the Seahawks were on the clock at pick 32, maybe a little bit higher, depending on if they trade up, we'll see. There's a lot of guys that can fill a need, or if they draft best player available, there are going to be several players that are very talented and can make an impact right away. I would say it's a reload class. Seahawks don't need to reload much coming off a Super Bowl.
Yeah. Yeah. And the interesting thing is obviously what John Schneider and Mike McDonald did in free agency, where they preached all year about the 70-man roster, and now they've basically only lost, about 8 players in this free agency class. They kept a lot of their depth guys. It makes it kind of interesting to see, the reload versus the rebuild kind of mantra here. So, like, when you look at a team like the Raiders, who we are all pretty much certain are going to take a Mendoza, do you think outside of that pick for them, because to your point, they're going to get the one quarterback in this class, do you think there's still pieces in this class for them to be able to start their rebuild process with Clint Kubiak?
Yeah, you need guys around Mendoza, like a wide receiver. And I look at the second to third round. There's Ted Hurst. There's in the third round we look at Zachariah Branch. There's several guys, like I mentioned earlier, that are there and they're talented. It's deep wide receiver class. They're going to need a couple of other positions on the defensive end, but they're going to be able to get guys that can make an impact right away. And I just think that's what this draft class represents. It's pro ready. And like you said, part of that might be due to the NIL.
And the other thing, I think this is maybe the last year we'll see the effects of the COVID year, because you're getting some of these guys that are definitely older prospects that have taken advantage of that. So that'll be an interesting thing to see in this whole process. When we look at overrated versus underrated, and it's always an interesting topic with these draft classes, who are some guys, in your opinion, that maybe are getting a little too much hype, and some guys that maybe aren't getting enough hype?
A little bit too much hype. A little bit too much hate. Let's go with this. A little bit too much hate, I would say, is Jordan Tyson. I think Jordan Tyson, it's become personal almost, the attacks from the draft sphere. It's become personal. It's he doesn't have the drive. Obviously we've seen he's been injured, but he doesn't have the drive. He doesn't have the want to, the will to. I would say he's a guy that's overhated. When we look at underrated guys, I love several guys that could go day 3. I think I mentioned to you earlier, Stephen F. Austin, cornerback Charles Demings. Incredible talent, incredible person. I mean, you sit down for 5 minutes with that kid and you will understand why teams just are infatuated with him. We talk about a defensive lineman. Let's talk about Navy defensive lineman Landon Robinson. I mean, another high character guy, but he's a dog on the field. I think there are several underrated guys that teams are gonna, in a couple of years, look back and be like, they got them in the 5th round. How did they get him in the 5th round? Like how did we let that happen?
It's really interesting that you bring up Demings, because yesterday I had Emery Hunt on, who's an analyst for CBS, does a great draft guide as well. And he was one of the guys that he brought up and said, hey, this guy isn't being valued enough. He goes, he's a good corner. He's a great kid. He's the type of guy that, if Seattle were to pick him and you slot him in with Witherspoon and Job, you might find yourself with a great player in a couple of years once he develops and gets comfortable at the NFL level.
I'll tell you what, I was told from one team that they had Charles Demings, cornerback out of little Stephen F. Austin University, as their number one ranked player when it comes to off the field characteristics. The teams are blown away. He gets in the interview room and it's like he's speaking the gospel. He's incredible. He's truly incredible. Teams love him, and I would love to see what team he ends up on.
And it's always interesting because everyone assumes because players go to these big schools and they are successful there that automatically translates to the NFL level. And then you get guys like maybe a Charles Demings who comes from a smaller school and people go, oh, well, the level of talent he played at doesn't really match up to what you'll see at the NFL level. And you see these guys come in and perform, and all of a sudden you're going, what's the school he went to? When you see his bio come up on, Sunday Night Football, and you're going, I've never heard of that school. And how is this guy as good as he is? So he'll definitely be an interesting guy. Give me a couple other guys to you that are standing in that maybe underrated or not talked enough range.
Yeah, we talk about the running back position. One guy I really like, Kentucky running back Seth McGowan. He's a guy that teams have been valuing higher than maybe the media doesn't really see. And then another running back, South Carolina's Rasul Faison, who I mean, you look at guys in this draft class, he might be one of the most pro-ready guys. He's going to make an impact next year. If a team drafts him to make an impact next year, he's going to be a starting caliber running back. I mean, there might be questions about the durability and the length of the career, but he's going to give you 3-4 good years. And that's what I feel like that's what the NFL has kind of shifted towards over the past couple of seasons anyway.
I think that's an interesting kind of, pathway to go down here, Ari, a little bit, is that kind of idea of the contract game with the NFL now. It seems like some of these NFL teams value guys differently as, hey, I'm looking at him just being a 4-year player for me. I'm not looking at contract 2. I'm looking at just those first initial 4 years and the impact he can make. Why do you think that pivot's kind of happened in the NFL? Do you think it's just due to salary cap, due to structure, or what do you think's caused that kind of mind shift there?
Yeah, I mean, we just saw that with Kenneth Walker with the Seahawks, right? We just saw that. He left. He gave them 4 good seasons, I believe 4 good seasons, and heading off to Kansas City. But, I mean, I think that's always been analytics. I would say analytics is obviously grown, and use of technology, all that. You've heard this a million times. But, yeah, I just think teams are just slowly adapting that philosophy. Not really sure if there's a rhyme or reason behind it. But I do know that like teams are methodical in their approach. Hey, I only want to allocate this much money over these next couple of years because maybe, for example, let's look at the New York Jets. The New York Jets, Geno Smith, they trade for Geno Smith. That's more of like a 2 years down the road approach. They're looking at the 2027 quarterback class. All those guys that could potentially come out, those quarterbacks. And so that's just one little example. But yeah, teams are definitely being careful with how they spend and being intentional with what positions they target in the draft as well.
So I think that's an interesting segue to this, other topic here of where's the value in this draft, Ari? When you look at this draft, where do you see the value? Is it a top-heavy draft? Is it a draft where maybe teams that have more picks in day 2, like 2nd round to 5th round, that area are going to see more of a, potential bang for their buck when it comes to these prospects? And how much does the 2027 draft play into the trades that we may see going forward in this year's draft? Because all the hype is that next year's draft is supposed to be amazing, which always is the hype when one draft's about to start, is next year. Just wait till the next year's draft. But how do you think that affects this, and where's the value in your eyes to this year's draft?
I mean, first, when we talk about next year's draft is incredible. I mean, the quarterbacks, the wide receivers, there are several defensive players that are going to be like, oh my God, this class is stacked. I think it's going to be one of the better ones in previous years. But this class is also talented. There's the guys. There's the core guys at the top. There's the Mendozas. There's Jeremiah Love, the Caleb Downs, all that. But when you get into like the second round, the third round, there's several guys that I think could fall to that third round, second round, and you could kind of look and be like, wait, wasn't he a potential first round talent? So I think there's several guys in that second, third round, maybe even fourth round where it's like, all right, this guy is really talented. And this guy is, like I've been saying, just ready to make an impact. I think that's the general theme in this draft class. There might not be as much superstar talent, but there's definitely going to be those guys that you see on the field every Sunday. They're going to be making an impact. First round, second round, third round, even into the latter rounds. There are several guys who are ready to compete and ready to contribute now.
Would you classify this draft class as more of a lunch pail workers mentality draft class than more of a sparkle and dazzle draft class that maybe next year's might be?
Yeah, I think the grit and the grind of this draft class is definitely different than what it's going to look like next year. Next year we look at Jeremiah Smith, Arch Manning. There's names next year.
Yeah.
There's names next year, but there's guys this year. There's players this year. These are guys that are going to make an impact, definitely.
So I got an interesting question here for you, Ari, from the chat here. We got Josh in here, and he goes, John Schneider usually picks 9 to 10 players each draft, a majority of the players within rounds 3 to 5. Who are some mid-round guys you think the Seahawks will target?
Well, we mentioned Demings, but I
Yeah.
think the overall question with Seattle is how are they going to replace Kenneth Walker?
Right.
I mentioned those two guys. I mentioned Faison. I mentioned McGowan. Another running back that I really, really like, Jaden Ott from Oklahoma. There are questions. There are character questions. I am not oblivious to that. There are character questions. There are also other guys. Nebraska's Emmett Johnson. He didn't really test as well as people thought he was going to test. But he's a player who could be on the Seahawks radar. Actually, I believe, don't quote me on this, but I believe he has a 30 visit coming up with the Seahawks next week.
Interesting, because I actually want to ask you about that because I have Seattle's 30 visit list here, and I wanted to get your thoughts on it just a little bit because it's kind of an interesting list, and it's very driven in a certain direction. I don't know if it's all smoke screen. I don't know if there's some real, meats to it, but there's quite a few running backs on there. There's quite a few corners, and there's quite a few edge rushers. And the edge rushers are interesting to me because outside of Zion Young and maybe Crawford, they're all kind of more the quick twitch guys that aren't necessarily what we've seen Mike McDonald use in Seattle. What do you make of Seattle's 30 visit list so far?
Yeah, I'm gonna correct my mistake. It's actually Mike Washington. Yep, you have it on the thing. That's who I was referring to, who has the 30 visit with Seattle. It's going to be on Monday. But yeah, I'm looking at it and all I see is DE. I see DE and RB. That's the positions they're going to target. And I think pass rusher is one of the strengths of this draft class. I love Zion Young in round 2. I love R. Mason Thomas round 2. I loved Malachi Lawrence before it was reported that he had the most visits in NFL draft class history. So clearly he might not be there on day 2. But there are a lot of guys that pass rushers, there's a lot of value there. There really is. And I think that would be a good target for Seattle, maybe at the end of round 1, maybe with their round 2 pick. They have a round 2 pick.
Yes, Seattle does have so Seattle, again, they have 4 picks in this draft. They have a round 2. They've got, what is it? I think they've got 32, 64, 96, and I believe it's 188. They're missing a 4th and a 5th.
I would say within their first 3 picks, they would select a pass rusher. That's where the value is with the pass rushers in this class.
So that's something. So one thing I wanted to ask you about a little bit about with this whole situation, Ari, and they're kind of the way their 30 visits all laid out. One thing we've heard is a little bit about the guards and the interior offensive line, and everybody in Seattle wants to get rid of Anthony Bradford practically because people have put out clips of him looking completely lost at times. I was at the camp at the beginning of last year where I said, hey, it'd be good to bring in competition for Anthony Bradford, but I also trust John Benton and this offensive staff. And Anthony Bradford played as, I would say, an average NFL guard last year. which do have their bad moments and bad games. Do you think if, say for Seattle, a Jennings Dunker's there, or a Jalen Farmer, or a Rutledge is there, do you think Seattle could pivot maybe and go, hey, we're going to go trenches on both sides and get a corner and a running back later on in the draft in rounds like 3 and 6?
Yeah, I think those guys you mentioned are talented, and they're definitely up there. One guy I really like is Jeremiah Wright. I've been hearing a lot of good things about him. Offensive guard from Auburn, kind of projected in the latter half of day 2. I believe I was hearing some third round, maybe fourth round buzz. That could be a good target for Seattle. But yeah, I mean, I think I wouldn't be surprised if they went with one of those offensive guards early in the draft.
So with Seattle's cornerback situation, and this is the last thing I'll ask before we get into the mock draft, but with Seattle's cornerback situation, obviously Reek Woolen leaves and goes to the Philadelphia Eagles, and they've re-signed Josh Jobe, but they kind of are thin behind that. They've got, you know, Nehemiah Pritchett, who they drafted a few years ago. You've got Spoon. How much do you think priority-wise corner is for Seattle to pick in the top part of the draft versus maybe later on?
I mean, when you take that into consideration, I think you have to look at just this draft class and the talent as a whole, right? There are a lot of talented guys at cornerback that could potentially go in the first round, but there are also several guys that I am infatuated with. I love Georgia's Dalen Everett. He's not gonna go round 1. He's probably not gonna go round 2. He might not even go round 3. He might be a guy that you can take, you can mold, you can develop. Another guy you can mold and develop, speaking of that, South Carolina cornerback Jalen Kilgore. Versatile is an understatement. He can be used almost as they talk about like that chess piece. You know, he can be put all over the place. He's an incredible athlete, and I believe he is young. I believe he was only in college for 3 years. He played with Devin Witherspoon at South Carolina a couple of years ago. You know, maybe they start a little bit of a pathway from South Carolina to Seattle.
Yeah, you know, him and Nick Eamon-Warry have been teammates, and it's going to be
Eamon-Warry, not Witherspoon.
Yes,
My bad,
I was going to say, but
my bad.
But with Nick Eamon-Warry, like that's an interesting thing because another guy is Brandon Cisse, who's another guy that Seattle potentially has talked to. I love Kilgore. When I do most of my mocks, unfortunately, he is going so much higher now than where he initially was at the beginning of the offseason here. But speaking of mock draft, Ari, before we get you out of here, because I know you've got to hop off here, let's do a mock draft. And I want to get you to play Seattle GM. You get to be John Schneider in this situation here. And we'll kind of get what your thoughts are on where Seattle show. And trades are available to you. I will make that very clear right off the bat here so you can trade away at your leisure here. But I'll get this a bit bigger so everyone else can see it. And let me just fix that. Let's see here. There we go. And we'll just plus this up a bit. Let me know when you can see it. Is that good for you there,
You're
Ari?
good. Yep.
All right. So we'll do the consensus big board. We're using Pro Football Network's one, which I think this year might actually be the best mock draft out there outside of the fact that it gets random ads. We'll do the 7 rounds. We'll set it to fast here. So we'll see what happens with this draft. It's been pretty consistent in the first round, so we'll see how it plays out. But first, let's take a look at what happened. So Mendoza, Reese, Bailey, Styles, Downs, Lemon, Tate, Bain, Love. Like, this seems relatively kind of on point, I think, in a lot. There's your guy, Jordan Tyson, going to the Jets. Zion Young is 26, and Caden McDonald, unfortunately, the Ravens traded up for him. TJ Parker there. So McNeil Warren's there, Colton Hood, CJ Allen, Chris Johnson. Do you want to look at the trades? What do you want to do first here, Ari?
Well, I feel like you got to look at the trade before we look at everything else.
So Miami's offering you 35 and 66 for 32 and 96. San Francisco is offering you a bunch of stuff next year, which I don't think anyone would complain about.
Yeah.
That's what Atlanta's offering, to give you 79 and 48 for 32. So what are you feeling like? Do you want to trade? Do you want to stay in and pick?
I'm a wheeler and I'm a dealer. Let's take the Dolphins trade right there. I like that. That's good value for 3 spots. I know the 5th round option gets talked about a lot, but I mean, moving
Yeah.
up 30 spots from 96 is pretty valuable.
All right. So we'll take this one. We'll move back a few spots here. Okay, 2 spots, and you pick up a 145 as well.
We'll hold off for the trades. Let's make a pick.
Okay, so basically they came up and took Chris Johnson. Anthony Hill goes, and the Arizona State tackle there goes as well.
Yeah.
What are you feeling like for Seattle here at this point? Our next pick is not till the end of the second now.
Yep. Next pick, not to the end of the second. We have 64, and I believe we have 66. So very close picks right after. Yeah. Yeah, I mean, let's take a look at the pass rushers first. I mean, I don't know exactly who's
so Cassius Howell,
okay.
Gabe Akis, Malachi Lawrence. And here's the thing, with that Giants thing, you would drop and you would pick up a 145 as well to go 2 spots down.
Yeah, I just don't see. I mean, Cassius Howell is a guy that teams are high on. Malachi Lawrence as well. I don't know if they go edge rusher here. Let's attack the interior offensive line.
Okay.
Talked about Anthony Bradford. Let's make a little bit of a surprise pick, and let's go with number 62 overall Georgia Tech offensive guard Keelan Rutledge at pick number 35.
All right, so we'll take Keelan Rutledge here. And all right, well, this is going to – okay, so drop back 5 spots, pick up 125 from New England. Wow, everyone really wants to wheel and deal right now.
Yeah.
And I would take the New England deal if I look. But anyhow, the board fell as such for you here, Ari. You basically – what do we lose? Okay, McNeil Warren goes. Chase Benantes goes. Chris Bell. Ty Simpson to the Steelers, which is surprising. Jacob Rodriguez, Malachi Lawrence went to the Jets. The Dolphins. Pregnon goes to the Jets. Cisse there to the Texans. Colton Hood, yeah. Jennings Dunker to that Chargers offensive line. If they get Jennings Dunker, holy! And there you go.
That's a hardball guy.
Yep,
that's a hardball guy for sure.
So, what are you feeling now? Because we basically have almost back-to-back picks with the Cardinals sandwiched in between.
Yeah, I mean, let's first of all take a look at top players available in terms of what we're seeing. So, I mean, D'Angelo Pond's falling is intriguing. He's a playmaker.
I just think he's a little too small height-wise for Seattle, and that's the one thing that kind of scares me away from him.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's kind of an interesting board. Let's take a look at the corners maybe and see. There you go.
Yeah, I mean, the thing with Pons that I like is just his adaptability. I mean, he's shown at every single level he can adapt despite the height. I mean, he's a playmaker. He's definitely got a knack for the ball. One player that stuck out to me was Mike Washington. I feel like Seattle would attack that later on. Take a look at the edges, actually.
So Derek Moore is there, Danny Dennis Sutton, Romello Height, Kayron Crawford. Barham's one guy that I've really grown attached to because of his off-ball capabilities and Mike McDonald's versatility. But I also like Danny Dennis Sutton as another guy, and Derek Moore too. I think Sutton's ceiling's higher, but Moore I think has a higher floor.
I'm actually going to go with a guy that you didn't mention.
Joshua Josephs?
No, Auburn edge, Kayron Crawford has been receiving a ton of interest. When I tell you that, in double digits, I believe 13 pre-draft visits, and it's not because of character concerns. I can tell you that. He's incredibly talented, and I really love him. If I didn't go Crawford, I would go with Romello Height, who I came out of the Senior Bowl thinking he was going to be a first-round pick. But I would go Crawford here.
All right, so we'll go Crawford. Okay, so the Giants offer up, and there's freaking Dallas doing Dallas things. Yeah. Okay, so we're back on the 66. Clock again here at 66. And our next pick is now not till 188.
I think that would be I think 188 is a good spot for a late running back. I mean, Charbonnet, I'm not entirely sure on his status. I would have to check into that. What's coming out of the Seahawks
So
camp?
it sounds like his recovery is going well, but they're not going to push him. I wouldn't
Yeah.
expect Charbonnet to be back probably until October.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I still think they would wait till 188 for a running back. Other team needs. What do you like right now when we look at the top of the board?
So with our picks,
Ponds.
Ponds is still there. Like we've gone Rutledge, we've gone, with Crawford. So we've attacked both edges here. So if I go and look at the corners, like I like Malik Muhammad, I like Chandler Rivers, Dalen Everett's still there.
He is.
Again, with what Seattle looks for, Demings is still there, Devin Moore, Julian Neal, Masses, Price. There's a lot of corners there. If I go to offense and look at the running backs, really, I think after these three, it's a significant drop to Katron Allen. Like Katron Allen to me is just another back. I like Mike Washington's explosiveness, but I'd probably go between Emmett Johnson and Jonah Coleman for a fit in Seattle. And the reason I say that is I know Jonah Coleman had a bad 2025, but you go watch his 2024 tape, and he is on the same level as potentially, Jadarian Price in a lot of ways with explosive run rate, yards after contact. He's a guy that's up there in the numbers, which is something John Schneider and this offensive, coaching staff value. So I think it's between him and Emmett Johnson, because I think if we don't take here, come back around at 188 after you're sitting out 2 rounds, it may be very bleak at the receiver or the running back position.
Yeah, no, you're right. There are a lot of really talented guys here, and I mean, we're at 66. Washington's ranked 67. I would argue that he's on some teams' boards ranked even higher. Yeah, I mean,
or do we trade back potentially and try and get another pick?
We can wheel and deal if we want. Let's look at the trade offers again, I guess.
So the trade offers is basically the Giants give you 105. There's not.
Yeah.
We can also go and propose one. So I'm going to see if we can get from Cleveland to let them move up a few spots.
Yeah.
To see if we can get something out of Cleveland here, because Cleveland always likes to deal. So we'll go here. We'll drop to 70, and maybe we can pick up 146. Oh, maybe not. Let's throw in a 5th next year.
Close.
Or maybe a 4th. There we go. So we throw in a 4th.
I pick up 206.
There we go. And yeah, there we go. So the value's close.
Yeah.
So let's see if they'll do it. Yep. Okay. So we switch spots. Okay. So Jacksonville's come calling now with the trade offer for 11 picks drop. So Pons goes to the Raiders. Sam Heckett goes to, I like Sam Heck, by the way, from Kansas State.
Yeah.
Chris Brazzell, Zachary Branch. So we're now sitting at 70. We do have another pick coming up here.
Yep.
I feel like
this is the running back sweet spot if you have
several
picks after that. I mean, I like Washington, but also Emmett Johnson is a guy
your draft. It is your draft.
Yeah. Emmett Johnson's a guy that has been impressive. I stick with the top guy. I go with Mike Washington.
Okay, so we'll take Mike Washington here. And now we'll see what the corners are left for us. Kilgore, unfortunately, went off the board. Yeah, there's been quite a bit that's transpired here. Jonah Coleman made it to round 4. All right, so we're up now. Let's take a look at our big board. So it got depleted. The corners, Massis is the top-ranked corner left now. So
my guy is gone.
Demings is gone, unfortunately. So you got Prize Soccer, Masses at safety. Safeties even went VJ Payne's out of the conversation now. What do you think about Masses as a corner in this, Seattle scheme?
Yeah, I mean, I think that would work. I also like the Washington ties with Freestock 146. They could also I actually, the pipeline, the Washington to Seattle pipeline kind of makes sense for me here, actually.
Okay, so we'll go with, do you want to look at linebacker? Harold Perkins Jr. is sitting there, and he's kind of a Swiss Army knife weapon in a lot of ways.
Love him to death. Love him to death. Yeah, that's a tough one. I think we stick with the Washington cornerback.
Okay, we'll take Prysock. I'm pretty sure Perkins just went with the next pick like right after that. So
yeah, once we didn't go with him, he's gone.
Let's see. He literally went the following pick to the Commanders. So there you go.
Yeah. I wouldn't be surprised to see him go day 2, actually.
He's definitely a guy that I've started doing a little bit more digging into. Okay, so we got 2 more picks. We got 188 here and 206. The Godfather is on the board. So is Max Llewellyn. Like, this is where it's interesting if Seattle doesn't maybe try and double up on an edge here, because you've got Llewellyn, you've got Rieger, Caden Curry's there. Any of those guys kind of speak to you at all?
I mean, one guy that I like that I see here, actually, you didn't mention Florida edge Tyreek Sapp. I was talking to someone that's worked closely with him for several years now, and I read it was a long message, and I was like, all right, this is long. This is a good breakdown. And then at the end, in all caps, all I saw was Hall of Fame potential.
Wow.
Hall of Fame potential. I think there are a lot of teams that are sleeping on him. Yeah, I mean, double up on edge, maybe. I would like to look at. What are like the offensive tackles looking like? I mean, in terms of just value here. I mean here.
Keegan Trost is there.
Keegan Trost,
I think he could slide into guard. He's got some versatility.
Yeah, I mean, they could use a guy like that. I mean, did we go? We went offensive guard in the second. Yeah. I actually like Trost here. I think that's the pick for Seattle. He's been picking up some steam. I've heard a couple pretty good things about him over the past couple of days, actually.
Okay, so we'll pick up Keegan Trost here. And maybe come back.
I saw Diego Pavia go.
Did he actually go in this draft? That would be one of the Diego Pons went.
Oh, I saw Diego P. I thought it was Diego Pavia.
So actually, Sapp is still there.
Yeah. I would be remiss to not look at the receivers.
Okay, we'll take a look at the receiving core.
All right, let's go back to the pass rushers.
That was a quick venture there. So Mason Rieger, Vincent Anthony Jr., I was impressed with him a little bit at Senior Bowl, but man, has he been dropping down boards lately?
Yeah, I just have not heard a lot about him. He was a player that I expected to hear a lot about as like one of those potential risers. Like we talked about Malachi Lawrence.
Yeah.
A couple days ago, people were like 3rd round. Now it's like I saw him go like 20 in like a mock draft earlier today. But yeah, I expected more out of him. Gotta stick with my source here.
Okay.
Gotta stick with my source. Tyreek Sapp.
Okay.
He's a guy. I think he's moldable, and there won't be a lot of pressure on him heading into Seattle. He'll be able to try to take his time, work his way up, and get to making his impact.
All right. Tyreek Sapp is off the board, and that will wrap up our draft here with Ari. So let's have a look and see what the grade gives us. So we got a C+
Bad grade.
So we got a C- and a C, but everything else in the back end, our 3 mid picks were great from Washington, Prysock, and Tyreek Sapp were great. Crawford, Rutledge, and Trost were kind of meh picks, but our trades were a B and a C+ with Cleveland. So overall, that's where that draft kind of went for us on this one. But Ari, I want to say thanks, man. Like, again, appreciate you coming on to the show here, doing the mock draft, being a part of it, bringing your knowledge to it. I know we got to wrap this up here, but let my listeners know where there's stuff that they can find for you and what you kind of got going on now as the draft closes in here.
Yeah, absolutely. You can find me on Twitter, like it says in my name, at Arye Pulli NFL. Posting a lot of 30 visits going on right now. I'm learning of a lot of those. A couple of Seahawks. I've been hearing in the past couple of days. I'll actually be hosting a space in about 18 minutes with UTSA kicker Joffer Murphy, the viral kicker, ran a 4.4, kicked a 70-yard field goal. But yeah, excited for this draft to come up. We're now less than 2 weeks away. And yeah, I appreciate you having me. I had a blast.
Yeah, I'm really grateful for having you on and you bringing your time here to the show. And so if everyone hasn't, head on over there, follow Ari. I'll make sure his Twitter link is down below so you guys can get on over there and get subbed up to him on Twitter. But again, Ari, thank you for your time, man. And hopefully we can have you back after the draft so we can break down what Seattle did.
Absolutely. Let's do it. Appreciate you, man.
All right. Talk to you later, Ari. Thanks.
Thank you.
All right, guys, that was Arye Pulli joining us on the show today. Ari was a great resource today for a couple of different things he's been hearing within the NFL world. So it'll be interesting to see, what Seattle does here. Does Seattle, go and start edge hunting really quickly? So what we'll do here, though, guys, is I know we haven't done the 12s Q&A, so get your questions, comments in to me here, and we'll wrap up with some 12s Q&A. And then we'll do, actually, you know what? We'll do one more mock draft. But this time there's a new feature in StreamYard that I'm going to try out on this show, which I think will be kind of fun. And that's the fact that I can actually put polls now into the chat. So when we tried before to do a chat-led poll, it kind of failed because it took so long. So I will put in options for you guys on players to pick. And we can actually do one of those here before this Friday night's up. And you guys get to enjoying your weekends and everything like that. So let's get into the 12s here and see what you guys have got here. Just having a look through the chat. Let's see. Here's one from Josh. He goes, I firmly believe we have no needs, just wants. We can address wants and depth this draft and stave off any future needs. I think as long as we take an edge, cornerback, running back, and OG in the first 4 picks, we're good. Well, Josh, I'll say one thing. It may be the only 4 picks. There's been a lot of rumblings out there recently about Seattle being interested in Myles Garrett, on Thibodeau, on the potential of them trading their 32nd pick out to go and get a 2027 pick. I haven't necessarily heard certain things like that from people I know that are connected, but you never know at this time of year. There's a lot of smoke screen. There's a lot of stuff going on because teams don't want teams to figure out what their path is and what they are going to do in the draft. So make sure you guys are ensuring that the sources and everything you check with are, on Twitter and stuff are actual legitimate ones, because there will be the phony ones out there that'll throw stuff out that aren't real. But it'll be interesting to see, Josh, what Seattle does if they, decide to stay with just the 4 picks like they did 3 picks when they had the COVID season and they just picked D. Eskridge and Stone Forsythe in that group there. Or does John try and move around a little bit in this class? And maybe they do value rounds 2 to 5 as their kind of, hey, this is where we want to be living in this draft without giving too much for the 2027. So it'll definitely be an interesting situation for sure. We got one here from Misfit. Goes, Crawford and Rutledge are hot names. Yes, they are. Rutledge and Crawford were both 2 guys, Misfit, that really stood out to me when we were down in Mobile when I was there with Dan Vians and Brandon Kane. They were guys that really, popped off the screen. So did Gabe. Akis for me really stood out. And, some of the corners that we've talked about here on the show and throughout this draft process are guys. And one thing I liked about Crawford was I saw the size, but I saw the athletic ability really translate. So it's something I wonder if Seattle wants to get a little bit more twitchy, but doesn't want to necessarily substitute size in some of those areas. Maybe they'd look at a guy like a Kayron Crawford and go through that. What do we got here from Brian? He goes, those just better be rumbling because I'm not selling the farm to go after Garrett or even Thibodeau. Here's what I'll say. If Thibodeau's market, to what I have heard from people I know that are connected through the NFL, is roughly, the Giants are kind of looking at it like they need to, in some respects, offload him sooner rather than later because he is in the last year of his rookie deal on that 5th-year option. They may take less. I don't think you're going to be selling the farm to go get Kayvon Thibodeau. You may give up your 64th pick or, your 3rd round pick there to go and get him potentially. You won't be selling the farm for Thibodeau. And it'll be one of those situations like John has done in the past where it's, hey, we're going to bring you in. If you mesh with this locker room and everything, great. If you don't, then you're on your last year of your deal. Go test free agency and we'll see you later kind of a thing. Garrett, on the other hand, would be the conversation around 3 first-round picks. Like, are you willing to and be prepared to give up 3 first-round picks for Myles Garrett? I'm in the camp of if that's what it takes to get Myles Garrett is giving up this year's first, next year's first, and 2028's first for probably one of the most dominant defensive players we've ever seen outside of Aaron Donald, Aaron Donald, outside of seeing, Lawrence and what he did there with the Giants way back in the day. Like, I would give up, and people may be very critical of this, I would give up 3 first-round picks for Myles Garrett, even for 4 years of Myles Garrett being left in his career. I think he's that impactful of a player. What else do we got here in the chat? Josh comes in with saying, hard to believe John will not leave with anything less than 8 picks, but I could be wrong. I'm curious to see what they do. I think 7 might be the sweet spot for them. And we'll kind of go through that. And if you guys haven't, I just saw Misfit put in the chat. If you haven't, head on over and follow Ari. He's really coming on as a guy that's really good for these NFL visits and the draft and everything. Make sure you go check out his work over there. It'll be interesting to see, kind of what the NFL draft holds and what these visits look like for Seattle, because I think there's some smoke screen going on that we maybe haven't talked about necessarily. So it's going to be, I think we're going to be in for a very, very interesting draft, because I think more teams than we realize are going to be trading and moving around. And it won't be significant where we're going to be going like, oh my God, I can't believe this team did this. But I think you're just going to see a lot of movement, because I think there's a lot of value in the mid-round picks for this draft. And I think that's one of the things I would say that maybe in past drafts we haven't seen is the mid-round value there. We've seen it kind of depreciate a little bit with the NIL. I think this might be one of the few drafts of recent memory where rounds 2 to 5, there's a lot of action in there because there's players that teams really want. Oh, and there goes our one of our moderators of the chat, Amy Holmes. Have a good night, Amy. Hope you have a good weekend as well. Thank you for, as you do as always, as keeping a very clean and well-run Hawks Eye chat. I always appreciate the work you, John, and Josh do there. It's absolutely awesome. So thank you again, and have a good weekend. All right, well, let's try this out, everybody. Let's try this voting situation here, and what we'll do, and I'll see if it works. I'm going to do a test one right now to make sure. So let's see if this works. All right. See if it ended up in the chat here. Unfortunately, I don't think it did. Let's see here. Throw that over in the corner. Let me know if that popped up for anybody, if you guys can do anything with it. If it hasn't, that's unfortunate. It's supposed to, but I don't think that function's really fully working for StreamYard. All right, well, we'll stop this and we'll try it again at another point. So let's do this. Let's go into this, and I'll just look. There's enough of you guys in the chat, and we'll go from there. Let's enter this draft and see what we come out with, everybody. So did I set this right? I don't think I did. Hold on. I am going to restart this. Let me have a look and see. That's why. There we go. Okay, we'll go consensus. We'll go 7 rounds. We'll pick Seattle as we always do. And we'll enter this draft, and hopefully it goes a lot quicker this time around. There we go. Wow, Sadiq held on there. Okay, so we'll go through the trades first. This is what Philly's offering. That's a fairly steep drop, but you add a second-round pick next year. That's what our lovely rivals down there in the Bay and our second home, the 49ers, are offering. And that is what Atlanta is offering, which I actually, out of them all, I think Atlanta's deal makes a little bit more sense than some, but we'll have a look at what's left. So on the board, right off the top, Fernando Mendoza goes. Arvell Reese, Jeremiah Love, Ruben Bain, Styles, Carnell Tate, Lemon, McCoy, Delaney, Fano, Freeling, Mesidor, Vega, Tyson. Well, the Jets really got aggressive in this mock here so far. Sadiq off the board, Cooper, Falk, Concepcion, Caden McDonald to the Bears. All right, so Avion Terrell fell. That's interesting. He did fall. Do we trade 32? Yes or no? Just put yes or no. Do we trade pick 32 for the Atlanta proposal, which I'll bring back up on the screen? And you guys can have a look at it here. This is what Atlanta's saying. We go 59 and we pick up pick 79, which again, when we look at our trades here or at our board, 79 would slot nicely in between 64 and 96. When we look at this, Terrell's there, Blake Miller, Zion Young, Chris Johnson, Ty Simpson, Cisse, TJ Parker, Howell. If we go to the guards, in case anyone's wondering, Pregnon, Rutledge, Dunker are all still in that area. Farmer's still there. And at the edge position, Zion Young. Like, there is a lot of edges if we fall back to 48 that I still think we could pick up if we want to pick up an edge. And corner-wise, Terrell's there, Chris Johnson, Cisse, Pons, Stukes, Muhammad. There's a lot of options here, guys, if we fall back a little bit here in this draft. All right. Okay, so Brian seems to be the one saying I'd rather take Terrell here at 32 and not chance it. Misfit saying stay put. Lawrence or Rutledge. There's more yeses in this saying we should drop back. So remember, this is the trade offer. We are going to add a pick in between our 64 and 96, which might help us out with either grabbing an extra corner or grabbing somebody we may miss out in that giant drop from pick 64 to pick 96. And I'll actually make this a bit bigger because I apologize. I think, oh, maybe it is the right size. We'll make it a little bit. There we go. There we go. It's a bit larger now. And we'll take off that media asset banner there. All right. So, based on the chat, I like this one right here. We'll get Kilgore with that Atlanta pick. That's fair. Josh brings up the point. Dropping down gets us more chances to get players. All right, so we're going to take this. We're going to take this trade offer, it sounds like, from everybody here. All right, so trade offers next. Oh, I got a little close there. There we go. Okay. And we are going to accept our Atlanta Falcons trade. And we're going to drop back. So, all right. So Indianapolis comes in with a trade, 78-56 for our 48. And Miami comes in with an opportunity. Let's stay here and pick. So this is what happened. Obviously, wow, the Terrell brothers are hanging out in Atlanta. Zion Young to Buffalo, Cisse off the board, Anthony Hill, Blake Miller, Rodriguez, Pregnon, TJ Parker, Mason Thomas, Chris Johnson, Dunker went earlier than I thought. Gabe Akis, Ty Simpson, Caleb Banks. All right, so we're at pick 48 here, and we do have another pick at the bottom of this round at 64. So Cassius Howell is still there. Malachi Lawrence is still there. If we look at offense and we look at guard, Rutledge is still there. Do we take Rutledge or do we take an edge? Here is where I'm looking at with this. If we look at corners, Pons is there. I still think, like I said with Ari, I think Pons is just a little too small for Seattle in the height department. I think he's a great player. I just think he's a little small. Do we go Lawrence or do we go Rutledge? I think this is the question we've got here. Is Malachi Lawrence the guy, or is it Kalen Rutledge who is hanging out there still? Based off of what you're saying there, Misfit, Lawrence's best player available. Actually, it is Cassius Howell who is the best player available. All right, so it seems like everybody's in favor of Lawrence. Okay, we are going Malachi Lawrence here at pick 48. All right, so Green Bay's offering us 84, 120. I don't think we need that because we've already obviously added another pick here at pick 79. So what happened in that time span for us? Pons is gone. Bernard's gone. Branch is gone. Brazel's gone. Howell went to the Eagles. Danny Dennis Sutton went off the board. AJ Halsey. Rutledge goes there at 48 or 58 to San Francisco of all places. Now we're looking at this spot here sitting at 64. So we've taken our edge. He's going to learn. Let's take a look at this guard. Now, I will say I have done more digging into Jalen Farmer since my show with Emery Hunt yesterday. I've talked to people that I know are connected, and they all have kind of echoed the same thing, that Farmer is going to be a guy that you are going to get immense value out of. And he's a guy that can definitely play in this Kentucky offensive line, even though the program itself isn't very good, was one of the better units. So he's a guy at 100 that we might be able to steal. Do we look at the cornerbacks right now, and who do we take? Or do we take Jalen Kilgore here at pick 64? Misfit is screaming for price right now. I am actually really softening Misfit on Jadarian Price. I think he's a good back. I just think he's a little bit on that overhyped train right now. All right. Snuckum says corner now. Kilgore at 78. Misfit brings up Cliff at running back is massive. Take Price here and wait on a guard. We have a starter already at right guard and a strong backup. Kilgore is enticing here to me because he's been going so high. But corner-wise, you have Abney from Arizona. You got Stooks. Stooks has met with Seattle. Malik Muhammad's sitting there at 79. Chandler Rivers, Dalen Everett. You've got some options here at corner. Jake Golday's sitting there, and Kyle Lewis are also sitting there as well as off-ball linebackers. So if I look at offense, go to running back, you have Jadarian Price still on the board. You have Mike Washington and Jonah Coleman will be there in one of our next two picks here at 79 or 96 potentially, I think. So do we go Kilgore or corner, I think is maybe where we look here. Okay, we got Stooks, a couple of them. Stooks, all right. Stooks is the winner so far in the chat, so we're going to go with Stooks here. All right. So we're now, Baltimore is offering to scoot back one spot with us. So who do you think Baltimore is after? Maybe Mike Washington, maybe Dominique Orange is sitting there. So this is what happened in that time span. So we got our corner. And Jadarian Price goes, Chandler River goes, Golday goes, Abney goes, Ramsey goes. So that tells me that Jalen Kilgore is still on the board. Do we take Kilgore here at pick 79? Offensively, running backs, Mike Washington is still there, so I still think that protects Jonah Coleman for our pick 96. Jalen Farmer is still there as a guard, or do we trade back one spot with Baltimore and see if they'll give us a pick in this draft somewhere later on down the line between our 96 and 188? Because I think we can probably scoop that from them. So let's have a look and see if Baltimore will do that with us. So let's have a look. So we'll give them 79. They're going to give us 80, and maybe we can get one. Can we get 154 out of them if we give them a fifth? Yep. So there we go. We can actually do that, which I think is okay. We look at the value. It's almost identical value. So I think we do that here. Okay. We flip spots. Okay. Jacksonville. Okay. So they went and took Jake Slaughter. So we've gotten now a pick here between 96 and 154. We got pick 80. What are you guys feeling right now? I'm seeing nothing in the chat. Do we go Kilgore? Do we go Jalen Farmer? Do we go with a running back here? Do we take Jonah Coleman here at pick 80? I should be playing the Jeopardy music right now while everyone in the chat thinks about what they want to do. Anyone got a suggestion on what we do here with our pick? Again, chat's leading this draft. So where are we going here, guys? Unless my chat is not working, which I think would be unfortunate. Let me see here if I can find out if it's got a problem. Because I just see the last bit here is I see Stukes is the last thing in this chat box. I would be tempted to take Jalen Kilgore here at 80. But you guys let me know if that's really what you're willing to do. Okay, so I just got a word from the chat from Josh saying that the chat's kind of buggered right now, which has been weird with StreamYard. So we're going to take Jalen Kilgore here. All right, Jalen Kilgore has been taken. Oh, well, Minnesota wants us to move back. I'm going to bring Josh in here, and hopefully Josh can give me an update on what everyone's feeling. Do we move back here? Take this, guys. We can look at the big board. So Sam Heckett's there, Connor Liu, Zach Wheatley, Will Lee. And again, this is what we picked so far. Malachi Lawrence, Stukes, Kilgore. And based on this, I'm pretty sure Jonah Coleman is still there. I think this is the sweet spot to take Jonah Coleman. I'm sorry, guys, that the chat seems to have disappeared here, which is really weird. I just threw a comment. Maybe that'll activate it, but we'll take Jonah Coleman here, everybody. All right, Jonah Coleman has been taken. And now we're up to pick 154. All right, so again, this is what we've done with our Seattle Seahawks so far. We have taken Malachi Lawrence, Stukes, Kilgore, Coleman. I think maybe this is time where we look at a guard. And guess who, lo and behold, is there? Bo Stevens. Now, Keegan Trost is also there. I'm personally more of a Bo Stevens guy. And it was interesting what Arye said about Jeremiah Wright. He's a guy that I'd definitely be interested in as well. So I think, it's a conversation on Jeremiah Wright or Bo Stevens here at pick 154. Unless anyone else has any other thoughts, which I will get from Josh here on the Discord channel so he can tell me what's going on. And again, I apologize for the StreamYard chat all of a sudden deciding to go on the fritz here. All right. So it sounds like everyone's saying Stevens. So we'll go with our guard here that everyone's asking about. So we'll go with Bo Stevens. All right. So I think we've done a really good job here. We've got an edge. We've got a corner. We've got a versatile corner safety in Kilgore. We got our running back. We've got a guard that can potentially come in and compete. So far, I'm really liking this draft here. I think there's an opportunity to double up on edge here potentially late on. Mason Rieger's there. Now, Nadeem Tucker's a guy that I think is really interesting as a late potential guy to bring in. Emery Hunt did bring up Mason Rieger. Cornerback-wise, TJ Hall's there. Andre Fuller. Linebacker, there's not much. I think there's a conversation we had around Rieger, maybe Sapp from what Arye's saying, or Tucker. All right. Kendrick Law. All right, let's see. And he's right there. Kendrick Law is sitting there, receiver out of Kentucky. We could always go receiver here if everyone's interested about him. He's an interesting guy. I've heard Hawk Blogger talk about him. He's a guy that I've been interested in a little bit too. You know, when you look at his testing, we're looking at a guy that's got the explosive, the vertical jump, his height, but he gives you a little bit something that maybe we don't have necessarily in this receiving core. All right, let's have a look. So we're going, what is everyone thinking here? Is it Kendrick Law? Is that who we need to go with? Edge or Law? Okay, let's have a look here. If we go Edge or Law. So with our Edge group, again, like I said, it's really Tucker, Rieger, or Sapp. I'd be okay taking a receiver here. I think Law is an interesting guy that you can come in, potentially, pushes Bobo a little bit in this receiving core room. And if Kupp does retire, he's the type of guy that we could potentially, be interested in, moving up that receiver card. So let's do it. Let's take Kendrick Law, and finish out our draft here. I think we have one more pick though, actually. Oh, no, maybe we don't. I thought we had 206, but that might have been the draft prior. All right. So our draft is done here. I should say you guys got a B in this draft. Your lowest grade was a C+ on Bo Stevens and Jalen Kilgore. Outside of that, you guys got an A for Stukes, an A for Lawrence, B- for Jonah Coleman, and you got an A for Kendrick Law. I think you guys killed this, chat. Way to go. So I'll make sure to post this as the first chat version of the show, of the off season, and your guys's first mock draft, and I'll put that into our community post and into the Discord, guys. And again, I'm really sorry, everybody, that obviously the StreamYard connection to YouTube somehow got siphoned there, and you guys don't have the ability for me to see it. So I've actually got the YouTube channel playing here on the side so I can actually see what's going on. But I appreciate you guys and all the support of the channel and everything. I'm going to take a bit of a weekend off here, unless there's some Seattle Seahawks breaking news. Obviously, if you guys haven't already, head out, check on to the Emery Hunt show I did yesterday. There's also a show I did earlier this week with Mookie Alexander in State of the Hawks. So make sure you guys check that out as well. And again, we'll be back next week. I've got a couple other cool guests that'll be coming on. Jeff Simmons will be coming back onto the show before the draft as well. Seahawks Syndicates next week. And again, guys, as always, thank you for your support of the show. If you haven't already, like, subscribe. At the beginning of the show, click on the QR code, and it'll take you to the Hawks Eye Discord app. Join the community over there. Josh is doing a great job getting all the draft stuff up in there. And yeah, we'll see you guys next week for more coverage of the Seattle Seahawks in this draft process. And as always, stay loud, be proud, and go Hawks. Have a good night, everybody.